Basically, when we think of identification, there's several different things that we can do in identifying cattle. Dr. Clear had spoke about hot iron branding, and that's something that's been around for years and years, and a practice that has been utilized for many, many years in terms of cattle operations. It was the standard identification and ownership of animals, both in terms of ID and the ownership. One of the things that started happening as we evolved both in commercial and purebred sectors was identifying animals with maybe an identification or a number with a tag like we have right here. A tag that gives a certain set of combinations that's identifiable to that ranch or to the people that are there. For us here, we have a year that it was born, identification number, a sire, and a dam. The reason I talk about this as we transition into utilizing freeze branding, which is a process that's typically been associated more with maybe purebred sectors. Probably some of that has to do with that it's associated with the identification of animals in terms of maybe tattoos that are put on their hips, because sometimes these tags are lost. And so it's very nice to actually have that identification number on the animal, and we can actually see it quite visibly. The other thing is that we started using those in terms of ranch brands or holding brands in terms of identification like we showed on the heifer earlier. Probably one of the deciding factors in utilizing this is that it's a little more labor intensive. It also takes more time in terms of applying that. So probably in a situation of a commercial operation, we don't see it utilized as much, and that's probably why we see it identified mostly in purebred operations, however being utilized in both. One of the things that we talk about in terms of the products that we need or the things that we have to have are our irons. They're a little more unique than those that we have compared to a hot iron. You'll see that it's fairly short in terms of its length. They're always going to be covered in either bronze or copper. They're going to be rounded in terms of the edges, and that has to do with getting this applied to the hide and coming back with a very visible freeze brand. They're typically about a ½ inch in terms of thickness, and then we talk about the length of the brand. They're typically going to vary from 2 inches to 4 inches. 2 inches is ones that we will use on calves that are typically less than a yearling. They're cattle that are a little smaller in their frame size. Therefore, we're not going to get an extremely large brand as this animal continues to grow. This particular one right here is a 4-inch brand. It's a 0. We're going to use these in identifications. So that's kind of the way the brands work in terms of when you purchase these, this is what they're going to look like. You can also order them in terms of your ranch brand or identification to get those too. What you see I have here is I have some identification here in terms of my record keeping. If I'm going to be utilizing them in terms of their tattoo numbers or things like that, we want to make sure that it correlates properly with our records. And so that's something that's extremely important. So we've talked about our irons. The other thing we have to have, and we're going to go out chute side in here just a little bit, is a secure chute that's going to be holding that animal properly and appropriately. The next things that we need are going to be alcohol. We're going to show this outside as we get here. It's just in a spray bottle. We're going to use a type of alcohol that's 95% in purity or denaturized alcohol. That's going to help in this particular process. We're also going to need a couple kinds of brushes. We'll have a curry comb here that's going to get off manure or dirt or any of those type things that are laying into the hair that's in the hide. And we'll have some brushes, and we'll talk about getting that area in which we're going to freeze brand as clean as we possibly can. So the combination of the alcohol, the brushes, the combs, and these clippers right here in terms of taking the long hair. And this is especially important in terms of freeze branding. Typically with hot iron, we can use these or we cannot, but with freeze branding, we have to get as close to the hide as we possibly can in terms of getting a really good freeze brand.